Welcome to Pragmatic Product Chat series, where we tackle the biggest challenges facing today's product management, product marketing, and other market and data-driven professionals with some of the best minds in the industry. I'm Rebecca Caligeris for Pragmatic Institute and your host for this episode. Often as product managers, we're told that our job is to make the product so good that it sells itself. And I have to say, as a product marketer, that drives me insane because no matter how good your product is, no one's going to show up to your garage to buy it, right? And part of our job as product managers is to make sure that it sells. So to help us really understand this and how to get our product sold, we have a very great guest today, Ciara Peter, who is the Senior Vice President of Product at Robin, which is a workplace platform revolutionizing hybrid work, something we're all very familiar with these years. And she has 20 years of experience transforming enterprise software into really people-centric tools, including roles at Salesforce, Box, and Medallia. So she's got an incredibly good perspective. So welcome, Ciara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rebecca.
All right, Ciara, can you start? I always like to start by kind of asking everybody their origin story, right? How did you get where you are today? And why are you so passionate sort of about this people-centric product management?
Yeah. My origin story, I guess I'll just start with kind of the software years. Before I got into software, I was really into design. I was doing a lot of web work. I loved the design aspect and the sort of building aspect. And so I ended up getting a job in software. I worked as a designer for a long time and kind of realized that there were elements of the process that design didn't really allow me to get deeply involved in, which was thinking about long-term planning, strategy, roadmaps. There's definitely strategy in design, but I wanted to I was really interested in more of the business aspect. How does this drive us as a company? And so I decided to find a way to make the transition to product management. And so worked for, first company I worked at was Salesforce, got to see tremendous amount of growth there. And then I worked in, then I went to a seed stage startup. And then over the next 10 years, I worked in product management or product and design at companies of various stages, typically VC-backed companies, a couple of public companies that you mentioned, and now I've been at Robin for 3 years. And I think that when I first started working on business software, it was always and accurately at that point, around 20 years ago, it was always a perception that I guess if you work on business software, you're not going to build good products because you don't need to. Somebody else is buying them. So it doesn't really matter what the user thinks. And so people would always kind of frown on me and my peers in some ways for working on business software if they were working on consumer software. And that definitely drove me to want to prove them wrong. And so I've tried to focus on products that were in spaces that aren't necessarily things that users want to spend time thinking about. So I worked on several HR products. Now I work on hybrid office, and hybrid office is just controversial in itself because some people are really pushing return to office kind of either from this kind of perceived corporate evil perspective or like, hey, there are a lot of benefits to being there. And then some people just really kind of don't believe in it at all. And I think I was compelled to come to Robin because there's definitely like a people perspective to it. It's mostly employees using this, but really trying to help them have a better time, not having to go through all these clunky processes just to do their work. And so that's been kind of my theme throughout my career, is making sure that I guess trying to break convention. So making processes easier, but even trying to make them invisible where they don't need to be there. So thinking about how much you can automate, how much you can do on behalf of the users so they don't have to kind of spend time in all these different business applications when they really just want to be getting their work done.
I really love that sort of mind frame and switch, right? We often think about trying to make our products sticky because they'll use it more, they'll touch it more, there are more features. And sometimes it's sticky because they don't hardly have to think about it.
Mhm,
right? And
mhm.
that in some ways is ideal. And I don't think we always think about that. Like, what can I take off their plate and make them need it less? So I really like that framework. So that's an awesome backstory. And clearly you come to product management with that design thinking and the design mind frame of like people centric and thinking about processes and thinking it flows. At what point in your path to product management or in product management did you think, okay, so I know I have to work in that piece, but I also and like I it's also my job to make sure that the product sells, right? When did that shift happen?
I think it really hit me, you know, when you work at a big public company, there are so many products and yes, your product matters, but there are a lot of products that are going to keep the company afloat. I think it really hit me when I worked in an early stage startup and I was very close to like I interacted with the board. I was worked reported to the CEO, so I understood what the funding landscape was like. And I kind of realized, you know, you have to actually make a certain amount of money to prove that your company is worth investing in. And that's how the VC game works. Things have been interesting in funding landscapes in the last few years, which I won't get into. I wouldn't say I'm an expert that I can go on a diatribe on that, but you know, you go into business to make revenue. Ideally, you believe in what you're actually building, and maybe it helps the world in some way, or at least helps some people. But in order to keep operations afloat, you do have to, you know, have some kind of money so you can pay your employees and buy all the software you need. So I think that was a point for me was I don't think you have to be on a leadership team or like on an early stage team to understand that, but I think it's important for maybe managers to be as transparent as they possibly can about kind of what the business impact of the product the person is working on is. And sometimes that requires drawing many lines if you're working on sort of a product within a product, or maybe you're working on a growth area. A lot of the times in business software, it's not just one team is working on one product, one is working on another, and you tie it to revenue. More often, you can't really tie it directly to revenue, but you have to be able to describe the relationship to revenue, and maybe there's a soft proxy to revenue. But if we start doing well here, we believe that this type of prospect might come in. And maybe there are many steps to the story, but I think it's important to tie those together. And on that note, yeah, I think when you try to say, if you get these certain amount of MAU, that will lead directly to this revenue and it will lead to it right away, that's not possible. So I think that's why storytelling is very important, not just to customers, not just to sales, but really to your teams as well. So you can kind of, everybody's working towards the longer term vision together.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's true. Like, if we're, regardless of why we're in business, we are not going to make an impact. We're not going to be able to change the world if we're not bringing in the revenue that supports us. It's just a requirement. And I that's always true. And so it's always in product our responsibility to drive sales. But I do think the view is much more acute when it's a smaller organization sometimes, right? You can't just be like, oh, it must be that sales organization that was out on that, the big sales retreat that they did and they didn't make their goals. Like, there is no they, it is only us.
That's right.
And that mindset really should be the case no matter the size of the company. But it is definitely, you feel it more acutely when you can poke each other on the shoulders. But and this is one of the other reasons I think this is a really great topic with you is I think of designers as really strong storytellers, right? The really good designers I know are exceptional at capturing the stories of the users and bringing them in to help like kind of illuminate the experience as it be and to get the organization on. And I know one of the things you believe is using that same storytelling power to get sort of the go-to-market organization on board and fired up. So tell me a little bit about like how you've done that, your advice, help the people.
Yeah. Well, I would love to take it one step back before we get into that, which is that based on working at, these 7 different companies in the last 10, 15 years, I think I've seen enough to make this point of view, which is I don't think product managers believe they are responsible for the business results of their product. Or maybe they do, but they don't they don't think it's their responsibility to make sure it happens. And I think we really need to reframe what the job of a product manager is. Think about those two words, product manager. So it is not a product development manager. Um, your job doesn't start with a blank sheet of paper that's going to be your PRD that you write a bunch of assumptions in and maybe do some validation and hand off at the end. You are responsible for the success of a product. And I think about it with, um, let's say that we worked at Dyson and we were responsible for designing the Dyson vacuum. Um, we wouldn't just build the vacuum, put it on all the shelves, and never look at it again, and then move on to building a flat iron. We would probably every day pay attention the second it hits the shelves, the second there's pre orders. A manager of a physical product, a consumer product like that, would be paying attention to those sales every day. They would want to make conclusions like, a lot of people are looking at it on the website, but they are not ending up purchasing it. Maybe we're not presenting it the right way, or maybe it's not the product they expected. They may see some other outcome, which is actually we're putting a lot of money into marketing, and it's not. Nobody is interested. Nobody is coming to the website, and of course, there's like this physical retail aspect of it. But I have not worked on a physical product, but I would assume that that product manager can't just walk away and move on to the next thing. They would look at that, they would try and diagnose the problems. And if the money doesn't come in, they're going to have a hard time in that job. And they would really need to justify, okay, here's what we learned, iterate quickly and move on. We often don't do that in software. We are maybe some teams have the ability to generate their own roadmaps. Often a problem is handed to us. We go and do some research. We talk to 5 customers. Um, we do the preliminary research. We usually validate our own biases, and then we get to writing, and we get to designing, and we get to building. We finish building, and then we call our product marketer. We say, hey, product marketer, here's the documentation. Let me do a little walkthrough of the product. And thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck. The reason that this is top of mind for me right now is because AI, I think, is very valuable. We're seeing where it fits in and where it doesn't. But one place that we can be sure it's going to fit in, no matter what kind of software product we work on, is that there are going to be things that we can't write into a PRD. There are going to be a lot of things that are out of our control. And I think this actually allows us more time to understand customers, more time to do the right research, less time writing out every diagnostic of the product in our specification, and sort of ensuring that the teams designing and building it understand the problems you're trying to solve. You're there to validate it, you're there to test it, make sure that it solves those problems. But I think we have more time, and I think we can go back to this role of actually managing a product where we go and research the market. We have more time to look at competitive. We come up with the ideas. We make sure the people building it build the right thing. And then we go and ensure the people responsible for getting it to market, marketing, sales, customer success, are able to do that really well. So I think that's an important framing here.
Yeah, it is interesting because we think of it like on the consumer packaged goods side, the equivalent of a product manager, excuse me, is a brand manager, right? And the idea there is, of course, you manage the whole brand. You think of that as brand and story and success and revenue and all those pieces. And often on the product manager side of the house, we forget that piece, which is what you're talking about. Clearly getting very choked up over this. Uh, but I think it's important. And I think for those product managers who are fortunate enough to have product marketing, which is not it's not a majority of product managers, but there's a significant that do. Sometimes we do think, well, that's their problem, right? And that is, it's not, you have that market information from the market research. You have the point of view and the understanding that is really critical for the product marketing and the rest of the go-to-marketing team.
Yes. And the bold statement that I say is, if nobody uses this, there's no point in building it, which seems so obvious, but I really think that we forget that. And that's why uh, the one area that I micromanage, and I think my teams get a little bit annoyed with me, is we ship something and I go, where's the communication? Where's the education? How do people know what this is? Please write, please ensure that this is clear. And then we go back and do that. So yes, with that all said, I'll get to your other question, which is, how do we actually make this happen?
Yes.
So not everybody, considering that there's not this kind of convergence like you mentioned in CPG, there's a pretty clear distinction between sort of tech people and marketing people. And some product people are good storytellers, but it's not necessarily seen as a requirement of the job. So they may not be the best storyteller, but I think as the storytelling muscle is being built, maybe there's some different sort of tips and approaches that people can think about to get the point across. So I think the first thing you have to do is make these teams care. So one, first thing is, what's in it for you? So it's a good idea to understand how pricing and packaging works and how sales compensation works. So you want to understand what they get paid for. If, let's say, there's a main core product and you're building some new product, they may be more incented to sell the new product. They may not be incented to sell the new product at all. And so you have to find some benefit. If they're not specially incented to sell the new product, then you have to think about, well, how does this help you with the original product? How does this help you tell your story? So one is just understanding what are their incentives and how can you relate this to helping them. And then related to that, how does it help customers? So of course you want to get to how it helps them, but hey, we know that this helps customers. We heard, this piece of feedback. I think showing people videos, showing people evidence really, really helps a lot. And I'll say that even it's the same thing as a product manager. So we hear from our teams, customers are asking for this specific request. They're asking for it a lot. And you can kind of ignore it. You might say, well, are they going to churn over it? Is it going to help us get the deal? And they say no. And then you sort of ignore it. And then you see a video or you see somebody actually talking about it and you empathize with them and you connect with them as a human being and you go, now I get it. You see in their facial expressions, you can detect from their facial expressions kind of what it means to them. And I think that's really important. So that's the first thing, is you have to make them care and let them know what's in it for them. So I'll move on to the next one, but feel free to.
I think I like both the framing too of the what's in it for them and what's in it for the customer. Yeah. Both those two together are a powerful combination.
Yeah. Okay. So the next tip I would have is help them find clues. So often somebody in sales will have a specific talk track. They should be able to adjust, but learning to adjust and changing your talk track. If you ship product on a 2-week cadence, it would be really hard for somebody to change their talk track every 2 weeks to align to what's new out there. It gets very confusing. And so I think a really important thing is to let them know to look for cues. So I'll give you an example. Robin has a set of features that are around employee experience. So activities like events that are happening at the workplace, announcements for an admin to let you know something is happening, maybe a fire drill, I don't know. So employee communications, and then there's things like the ability to see when your coworkers are coming in. Okay, those on their own, they're each features that have a feature name, and internally we talk about them as, let's say activities. So a prospect that doesn't know much about the company, they're not going to say, "Do you guys have activities?" Um, so that may not trigger something for the person talking about it. But what they will say is, "I really want to help my employees get back to work, have an easy time, and build a great culture at work." So, what I would do in that scenario is put together a set of keywords: employee experience, culture, finding colleagues, like working together, collaboration. When they're doing discovery and looking for a pain point, I want them to have these keywords and then sort of a set of things that they can be prepared to talk about based on those keywords. Maybe they don't do it in that same meeting. Maybe they don't pivot that fast, but they can at least reference it and say, hmm, I thought they were coming in because they were interested in uh, space booking, but it turns out actually they have a bigger problem they're trying to solve. So let me put together this set of ways that I can help solve their problem.
So it's almost like a translation, right? From what they hear from the customer to what does that mean you should focus on in the product?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And threading and sort of threading the day in the life and how, this set of things will help them
Hmm.
with those problems that they're trying to solve.
And how do you tend to deliver that to salespeople, right? That's one of those things that I think everybody's always tried. I made this beautiful presentation, or I have this thing. Like, what are some of the formats, the function version of it that you've seen work?
Yeah. So there's kind of like the long term and the short term. In our town hall today, we launched a few things, and I actually mentioned those. I mentioned those keywords. So one of the things we delivered is an export. All right, boring. Like, who cares about an export? So at face value, you could say we launched this export, and it gives you a list of people and the desk they're moving from to the other desk they're going to. All right. But instead, I said, "Hey, you have people that come to us and they need help. They need help with moving. They're changing their office size. They're downsizing, and they come to us because they want to understand um, how, like, they want analytics to understand what to do. They want to plan and collaborate on like the actual, the drafting of where people are going to sit, and then they want, but they work with contractors, and those contractors actually implement it. And you need something for that contractor to take with them to make sure they can actually execute on it. Well, here's this PDF X, or this CSV export or whatever it was. But like, I took them through the day in the life. And then I also actually tagged on my slide keywords. So things to look for: move management. Like, these are things that people might say where you might want to talk about them. We have an office move coming up. We are adding a couple floors. We are going from like hotel desk to assigned desk. Never once do they say CSV export of moves.
Yes.
So, one is doing it a number of different ways, because people will respond to different things. But two is repetition. So, we will talk about this over and over again, until it becomes kind of part of the conversation. But it's not just translating to, let's say, a sales language. It's understanding that some people want a script, some people want a story, some people want like some logical connection between to help them pivot. Everyone has their own kind of like things that they excel at and things that they need help with. And I think it's it's very helpful when we can give them many different ways to translate that language.
Yeah. So it's not just repetition, it's repetition in various formats. So we're hitting the way that they think or learn or respond.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. These are great tips. What else you got?
Okay. um so another really important thing to think about that has come up a lot more with AI is not, well, I'd say 80% of people in sales, maybe customer success, are not extremely technical. Maybe they're somewhat technical, but they've never been a software engineer, right? And um, a lot of people don't know exactly what AI is. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they don't need to know. And so um, we're selling an AI product. I realize I've hit my quota of talking about my own products. I didn't come here to advertise, but I definitely have talked enough about my own. So I'm not going to talk about what that is exactly. But we launched an AI product. The first thing that happened is, there was a hesitance to talk about it. We said, like, you have some incentive to talk about this with our customers. You have an incentive to sell it, get them to turn it on, and they just didn't really gravitate to it. Didn't want to. Well, the reason is that they don't want to face questions like, tell us how you're using our data. How does this work from a security perspective? What's the GDPR or PII on this? Things start to get extremely technical when you just say it's an AI thing. That conversation needs to be quickly diverted to, instead of saying like, here's our AI thing, what you should say is, we have this thing. The goal of it is to help you answer questions about your answer questions about your office. Here's the type of questions you might add. In fact, let me seed you with 5 questions so that you can start getting going with it. But the point that I'm making here is, I think you should tell non-technical people what it's okay to be non-technical about. So in these cases, you may say, like, if they ask, well, how exactly does the algorithm work? They want to know, like, what are all the various the various data points that go into it. You can say that's proprietary. I can't share the actual algorithm because that's private to the company, but we can answer any questions around how it works. Or sometimes you just need to refer them to the FAQ if they're asking about security policies and how your data is used. You, I don't think that sales reps should have to know that script. Maybe they know a few main points. Or understanding, like, this goes back to discovering what's the pain point. You might find the pain point is they're just trying to figure out if you use their data in a training model. You can say that up front. We don't use your data in a training model. And then their question is answered. So I think when you have a highly technical product, let the sales team know, here's what I think you do need to know, and here's what is totally fine not to know, and here's how to kind of field those questions.
I think that makes sense. It is something that's always happened, but you're right. It is a lot more acute right now with AI pieces, and because it is both the how, but it is a buying criteria for some, right? So it probably comes up more often, but letting them know what area they don't need to know, right? And also really arming them for the areas they should, right? It's like always okay to say, I don't know, when I feel comfortable that I know a lot. Like, I don't have to know everything. But if I feel like I don't know anything, then I'm like, well, maybe I just need to start making stuff up. Yeah.
Off topic, but on this point, I started being a lot more successful when I realized that it was okay to say, I don't know. I think for the first 5 years of being officially in product, I came to every meeting with, I need to know every piece of information. I need to have all my dashboards up. I need to memorize every metric, and I need to make an extremely detailed case for this thing that we want to build. And then I got more comfortable, and I started being a lot more successful when I believed what I was saying, and was able to actually, you want to have some data in your back pocket, but when I was able to actually say, we've seen from competitors, from deals, the general sentiment is this, and that's what I'm basing this proposal off of. Let me know what you kind of think about it, and then we'll go do the real validation. And that works a lot better than sort of being a a human database.
It also makes you more open to hearing something else, right? If I feel like I come to the solution, everything, even if I don't feel that way, that's how I'm presenting it. Like it took me a while to realize this because I'm a marketing background. So I think in PowerPoint. So I will build a PowerPoint. And in my mind, that's like a PowerPoint wireframe sketch we're just chatting through. But for other people, a PowerPoint is the final presentation. So I am giving off to them that everything here is finalized and your opinion, while interesting, is not important. Right.
Yeah.
And that is, you think again, it's your responsibility to like have this right piece, but when you can find a way to still be clear, but let it also give them a chance to weigh in, we get better products.
Hmm. Yeah, totally agree.
And it's less stressful than always trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
What else do you have for tips?
Okay. So another one would be, and maybe this is not for, maybe this is harder for, like ICs that don't necessarily have access to a sales exec, but um, sometimes you can creatively actually align work with the sales ops or revenue enablement or a sales leader to align the team's incentives towards getting something adopted. So if you launch a new product and leadership agrees that it's important to to have it be known, they can do a sales spiff around it. Like it doesn't have to change their entire compensation plan, but often they'll be able to have a contest. Like
Yep.
the person who gets the most customers in this beta, they'll get $1,000 gift card or something like that. Generally, I think sales leaders have been pretty receptive to that if they actually believe that the product that you're bringing to them is useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so I think those are most of my thoughts about sort of how to get like sales and customer success teams on board. But I do also think about the in-app experience. And I realize like some of what I've been talking about is biased towards kind of traditional sales, B2B. Hopefully there's some concepts that can be
Absolutely.
taken out of there maybe for PLG or, other types of products. But um, the in-product experience is very important as well. And so I liked what you mentioned earlier about if it's designed well, people will use it. Somebody mentioned this to me the other day, and I was like, "No, that's that. I, it might be so. It will definitely help.
Yes.
But there's information they need before they will even try to use it. For example, what is this? So if you launch something new into a product, especially a business product that's not a daily use product, or maybe even it is a daily use product and it's just something they've never seen before. Um, what is this?
Yes. Like when the new button shows up and you're like, I don't know, maybe that blows everything up. I'm not going to push it.
Yeah. And what is it? And the answer is not CSV export of, of X and Y. Okay. What is this? Let's talk about the problem that it's going to solve. Okay, great. Who is this? Is this for me? Who is this for? Like, should I be interested in it? Plainly, who is this for? And that might be a role, but it might be like, these are pains you face, and we're going to help you with those pains. Okay, so we've qualified what it is and who it's for, and the pain that it can help solve, and maybe how it's going to do that. I think those need to be actual words in an application that are displayed somewhere so that people will go and try it because a nice UI is not enough because business UIs like all look the same. So I don't know what problem it's going to solve for me. Not everybody reads emails, especially end users.
You mean
Maybe
nobody
if
reads
you're
those really wonderful release notes that we put
yeah, like, I think that, hey, we do them for a reason. So like an admin and a super admin, those people are invested. They'll read the emails. Are they going to go through the effort of educating all of their constituents? Probably not. Because they can't even understand it really well enough yet. So yeah, the education is just not there. So I think we have to be really in people's face. Do we put a whole page of text? No, but it should be like, hey, you, I'm talking to you. Here's this thing, and I think you would really benefit from it for these reasons. Then they will actually take an interest in investing a little bit. There's really an aversion to this. I and there's an aversion like, well, we don't want to put too much text on the page. It makes things very complicated, and I agree with that as a principle in general, but not as like education. There are a lot of traps with just releasing new features to people or releasing features they've seen for the first time, like a guided product walkthrough. Why are you showing me a set of features that you're showing me? Oh, you're showing me the CSV. You're showing me the CSV button, and then you're showing me like a preview of the CSV, but still don't know what the CSV is for. So why are you walking me through all these different steps? I really don't
Plus,
care.
I'm in this program to do something specific, right? Like
I'm
I'm
going to
here,
do something else.
right? And you're just stopping me from doing it.
This is, yeah, yeah, right. And so part of it is that, part of it is showing value, some kind of value on the first time that people see something. But I think it's really about, yeah, aligning to the pain and not showing off features. They need to know why are they there. So if they're getting invited to this business product and they receive an email, they should know that the maybe a specific admin invited them, depending on the business. Like they should know why they've been invited.
Yeah.
We overlook that sometimes. So what is this again? What's in it for me? But also, what does it solve for the company? There might be something that somebody has to use that they get zero value out of. And hey, I will say that in our NPS, we get feedback that people are like, I don't even want to be in this office. I I would prefer to have an assigned desk. I don't like hot desking. So so I'm like upset that I have to use
Right.
this
So I give
product.
you a bad score. I was like, I didn't make the policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's life. That's life. But I think a lot companies overlook why this is valuable to the company. And so there might be a little bit of empathy building there.
Yeah.
Um, so I think this there's to kind of like sum up the general thoughts. I think there are so many parts of the product life cycle, and it's not just up to the head of the product organization to kind of look at these things. And I understand that understanding competitive, doing customer research, just actually making sure that the base parts, the product development parts, making sure that those are of quality and work well. It's very time consuming, and you have to pick and choose. But again, if you build a product and nobody uses it, you just wasted several months, and it's the hard truth. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when a team builds something that was really handed to them and didn't get the adoption, but the team can at least kind of do a little bit of that work to maybe help, to help to get it adopted. But that's the fact. You don't want your vacuum to sit on the shelf, and you got to understand, is it a product, is it a problem with the words on the package? Is it a problem with the colors on the package? Is it a problem with the fact that we built a new vacuum and 50 new vacuums just launched? We have to really understand the reasons. We have to own the products that we create, and kind of, I think I think that we're at a time where people always complain about busy work. I think what AI can take away is some of the busy work. I don't think there are some jobs being replaced. There are a lot of jobs that won't be replaced. There are a lot of jobs that will be fundamentally changed. And I think that AI will take away a lot of our busy work, but the parts that can't be replicated about our job is that like human intuition, understanding customer, customer research, empathy, um, building out really useful journeys, communication to the customer within the organization, and I think we get to bring some of the art back to our jobs, and so I think it's a great opportunity, and I hope that I hope a lot of people can kind of get ahead of that.
I love that. Bringing some art back to our jobs. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Ciara, this was amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate having you on here. If people wanted to learn more from or about you, where should we send them?
LinkedIn, Ciara, Ciara Peter.
Excellent. All right, that does it for today's episode. Thank you everyone for listening. And don't forget to join us next week when we tackle another great topic designed to help you elevate your product, your company, and your career.